Our first presenter is Irene Blackberry. Professor Irene is the John Richards Chair and Director of Care Economy Research Institute at the La Trobe University. She has over 20 years of research experience across the care economy in Australia and abroad, predominantly in healthcare, aged care, and informal care sectors. Most recently, she has been focusing on addressing the care crisis by breaking down the siloing of care sectors.
Today, I'm going to share with you a little bit about some of the research that we do at the Care Economy Research Institute around supporting a culturally diverse aged care workforce. We've heard a lot, ever since the Royal Commission, about some of the challenges that you're facing around, the aged care workforce. And in particular, I guess, we heard a lot around the racism, language issues, cultural differences, low skill, low pay, difficult job, particularly amongst the migrant women, And also on the other hand, we also heard a lot about, immigration. There's an increase, the government is increasing immigration to the country. And obviously, immigration alone, won't fix the aged care staffing issues. So there has been, obviously a lot of recommendations about, ways we can move forward with that. But, one of the things, I guess, that for us is important is to understand, the existing workforce already in Australia about their experience. So that leads us to two studies that I'm going to share with you today. So the first study is around the Asian female migrant aged care workers in regional Australia, and we are particularly interested in examining their lived experiences and focusing on the well-being of the aged care workers. Obviously those from culturally and linguistically diverse background. And we use the social resilience framework proposed by Keck and Sakda Polkrak. So it's looking at the social network as the key to how members of a community are able to cope, adapt, and transform. So social resilience during times of crisis. So it is a qualitative study. So it's a small, with the 7 participants, we did a semi-structured narrative interview and participant observation. We recruited people from the migrant communities in the Bendigo region in Victoria. So from that, we developed 3 narratives. So that's just the description of the narratives that we have done from the interviews. And we selected them to illustrate how they overcame challenges faced as migrants and as aged care workers to gain a sense of well-being and social resilience as a progression from coping, adapting, and transformation. So I can't present all of the data that we have at the moment, but I can give you the link to the full paper where you can read a bit more of the findings. But in short, is that, what we found is that opportunities, is being presented to particularly migrant women, of Asian descent. They see this aged care workforce as the entry level for them to be recognized as a professional employee. And some of the constraints that they experience includes racism, language, and cultural barriers. They experience a lot of demand in the work and also their own personal life as a migrants. And they felt that, they need to adapt, to adjust their relationships, not only with the clients and their colleagues, So they were saying that, it's a lot of getting to know each other. And the third part around transformation is about, how, they can actually gain some support, from colleagues and from their manager to address racism. They also need to transform in terms of, how they can have a good sort of work and life balance working in the regional area in particular, can be quite challenging, even though the low cost of living, but, it's a less, I guess, support from multicultural community. And the career pathways, obviously, it's also an opportunity for them, to move either into a nursing or some admin workers position. So the paper is there. I put it at the top, at the bottom right hand corner. You can see that it has been published. And if you have any questions, happy to answer that. And we then move on to the second study. So this is a larger study where we then want to tease out a bit more about social resilience. And this is among female culturally diverse aged care workforce in Victoria. And we want to explore issues around recruitment, issues around retention. And specifically, we want to know, how they actually build social resilience through support from the workplace. So we recruited via community health and aged care providers, industries, multicultural and community organizations, snowballing method and social media. And we undertook qualitative and quantitative, so mixed method study. We had 115 participants completed the survey online, and we followed them up then with the face-to-face or a phone interview with 20 of those. So we recruited 76% of the participants coming from metropolitan Melbourne. 77% were born overseas. 54% had a part-time employment at the time of the study. 50% work in the small facility. And the type of aged care facility, as you can see in there, predominantly is from not-for-profit and the private sector. We then look at the workplace support. So the questions was, did you receive support from your workplace? And of those who said yes, they have received some support, which is 56% of those. So it is quite low, I guess, in a way, if you want to look at it. The majority of them received that from the other culturally and linguistically diverse staff or officers. Some receive education, learning, and training, and to a lesser degree through communication and language books or cards or applications. And when we asked them about, who would you like to have, more support from, they said, they want more support from their direct supervisor, from the organizational manager, as well as the co-workers. So we also asked them about, what further support can be made for them in the workplace. So as you can see in there, a lot of them, would like to see more of a diversity training and awareness in the workplace. They also want to have more emotional support and debriefing. A lot of them find the frontline work, to be quite challenging, not only physically, but, more, I guess, psychologically or mentally, having to deal with a lot of the complex issues. Communication is probably the third sort of areas that, they would like to have, I guess, more support in the workplace, and other areas, including flexibility of work, English language support, and, career pathway or career progression have also been mentioned. So I will now ask Sarah to help me to play this video to share with you the qualitative experience of what, these participants feel about the workplace, to give you, the first-hand experience of, in their own words, their own story.
The support I need are, I hope I can get more working skills training, the language training, the culture training, more staff working together, and happy salary paid.
If there is a management giving a good skills training for the multicultural people to understand what they are and where they come from, it would be very helpful for us to continue the aged care work in our further days as well.
I think we need help and support from the management mainly, because they are the one who set up everything in a workplace. So they can organize some kind of get together or some kind of programs where we can express ourselves. We can put our value, opinion, views. So it will be easier for us to understand each other, so we can work as a team.
The majority of the workers come from multicultural background, so we should put some emotional support or even physical support to help them to overcome when the barriers, if there is any. From individual level, I think as myself, I would love to do more research or more study or more learning about the other cultures, to try to understand their culture, rather than, sometimes if I get offended or whatever due to different language, I should, try to find what exactly it means from their perspective of view. So which comes down to communication, which is the most important thing.
It takes a lot to ask the workers coming from culturally and linguistically diverse background, particularly if they're born overseas, to actually come and share their experiences. I know that, there has been some studies, but for them to be able to actually front up the video and share that experience, in itself, it is a new experience for them to actually, share, their experience. But also, I think that, they're not used to, I guess, being able to openly say about, what their experience and what support they need. So I'm actually very proud of, how, through this study that we've done, we managed to actually help them and support them, I guess, to be able to see the value of, sharing their lived experiences, and not only, I guess, exploring I guess the negative or the challenges, I guess, or the issues that they experience, but also in terms of, how they can actually receive support and continue in their career progression. So seeing more into, I guess, the resilience, the positive side of things, and how, through that, they can actually develop not only being resourceful in their own, I guess, life, but also in terms of their work. So in conclusions, I guess, from the two studies that we've done, the first study, we found that the themes, seems to be, I guess, centered along, the long-term career outlook. They see this as a professional career, and they're very proud of that, and they should be. And also overcoming the language barriers and the cultural value of caring for an older person. They're very proud of what they do because of the value. And over half of the culturally and linguistically diverse female aged care workers gain support from their workplace, with the highest percentage, as you can see in there, 35% is from other staff members, 22% from the workplace training and education. And these workers also would like to have more support from the managers and their direct supervisors. So training, obviously, in diversity and awareness around the workplace is important. And lastly, having a much more supportive workplace environment is really critical to help all culturally and linguistically diverse staff, build not only social resilience, but also for a much more sustainable aged care industry. So I want to acknowledge, obviously, the contribution by my colleagues listed in there, and also funding from La Trobe University to complete the two projects. Thank you.
Jeanne Arona is from Uniting NSW.ACT. Thanks for being with us, Jeanne. So Jeanne is a clinical nurse consultant working at Uniting Sydney's Central Region Senior Services. She migrated from the Philippines in 2014 to pursue her new nursing degree at the University of Technology, Sydney, and has been working in the aged care sector since 2017. She advocates for a respectful, inclusive, and progressive culturally diverse workplace. Welcome, Jeanne.
Good afternoon, everybody. I migrated from the Philippines 9 years ago, and for the last 3 years have been working at Uniting in Sydney's inner city and eastern suburbs region. I'd like to thank the Center for Cultural Diversity in Aging for giving Uniting this opportunity for me to present on our story on how we're supporting our called workforce for them to feel confident and that they really belong. I'll share with you some of the initiatives developed in direct response to the challenges we're experiencing. And I'll also focus on a case study on our graduate RN program. At Uniting, we aspire for a place where everyone feels safe and confident to be themselves, where diversity is valued to co-create a better world. Our diversity and inclusion strategy provides the impetus for us to focus on our called workforce through our impact pathway by nurturing and valuing our people, as it's only through this that we can deliver on knowing and empowering our clients and transforming our communities. So we can truly say, always welcoming you exactly as you are. This is a powerful statement. It carries a meaning that goes beyond mere tolerance, acceptance, and celebration to a mindset of inclusion and belonging. We want our called staff to bring their whole selves to work, their cultures, their languages, their traditions, their faiths, and their foods. Uniting is one of the largest not-for-profit aged care service providers with a strong commitment to social justice and advocacy on issues that impact on the people we serve. We employ close to 10,500 people, supporting more than 150,000 clients every year. Of this amount, 3,325 of our staff identify as called, with 77% of them working in our aged care services, and majority are working in residential aged care. Over recent years, we've seen a significant increase in staff from Nepal, the Philippines, Chinese-speaking countries, and from South Asian countries such as India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. And they bring with them their cultures, traditions, and faiths, which are all gifts and of all great advantage to Uniting. However, many of our called staff struggle when communicating in English with residents or clients, their families, and co-workers. We've also heard from our called staff that they've experienced racism from residents and their families, and from co-workers. This has a significant impact on the psychological safety of our staff, especially for some who struggle to communicate due to their accents. We also know that tensions between our called staff exist and that speaking in language at work can further exacerbate already tense situations. When looking at expectations of creating cultural safety for our called people, we need to look at the reality of the issues present and listen and learn to the hard truths from our called staff. And part of this process is introspection. We know we don't always get it right, but it's our intent. What are the solutions? Commitment from the top, knowing our people, educating our people leaders, listening and learning from our people, and capacity and confidence building. Over recent years, we've put into place several initiatives that I've tried to capture on this slide, but I'll just speak to a few. We've signed up with the Australian Human Rights Commission on Racism It Stops With Me campaign. And I'm really proud to share that we're about to start consulting with our Muslim women working in our aged care services about the concept of including the corporate hijab to our uniform range. We've also produced a training video for this year's Harmony Week. Listen and learn from the stories of our culturally diverse people, which includes 16 of our bilingual staff expressing what belonging means to them, with their CEO emphasizing that our called people are a gift and asset to Uniting. And in response to managing staff leave during times of cultural and religious festivals, we've produced a manager's guide that supports our managers in providing flexible responses to enable our staff to take leave and celebrate days of cultural significance. We're also investing in building communication confidence through our 6-month storytelling program facilitated through Moya Thayer-Jones, a renowned storytelling consultant. And we've made available our staff surveys and excellent award applications in 5 community languages, including Nepali. We know most of our called employees come from countries that celebrate Diwali, Lunar New Year, and Ramadan. We not only celebrate these awareness days with them, but we are one with them so they can feel respected, feel heard, feel proud of their culture, languages, traditions, and faith. This slide shows a few images of our called staff celebrating Diwali and National Aged Care Employee Day. And I quote from one of the service managers, "The smell from the lunchroom was unreal." I'd now like to spend a few minutes sharing this case study. So Uniting commenced its partnership with the University of Wollongong back in 2022 for the new graduate registered nurses program. A substantial percentage of the participants in the program are of called backgrounds. Uniting considers this as a critical investment in the quality of clinical care that we offer across our services, aware that in enabling and exerting our efforts in the development of our RNs, we are creating a positive difference in the lives of the people that we look after, whilst also building the confidence of our called RNs to communicate effectively. Out of the 11 gerontological competencies in the program, which you can see on the screen, there are 2 core ones that focus on inclusion and communication, which RNs could further develop on, namely, living well for older people across communities and groups, which covers diversity and promoting a culture that is accepting and generous about different ways of life, and communicating effectively, which highlights that communication is both a process and an outcome, and working on a culture of enabling communication across all streams. As one of the Uniting mentors, I could say that part of the challenge would be building confidence of the new graduate RNs as new members of our workforce. This also interplays with RNs who, like me, come from a called background and not have English as our primary language. An element of this capacity and confidence building is being able to communicate confidently and effectively through either verbal and/or written mediums as RNs, and developing language proficiency as well. Through this partnership, called RNs are supported by their Uniting mentors to be able to meet the competencies so they can confidently translate their learned skills into practice. Through role modeling, mentoring sessions, and workshops, RNs are trained in a safe space and are guided on practical tasks such as conducting an effective shift change handover, communicating with families and consumers effectively, and writing a concise progress note. Called RNs are mentored closely for them to be able to discuss their experiences, reflect to identify areas for practice development, and create a professional portfolio of evidence to demonstrate their competencies. The program culminates in a presentation of their work to show what they have learned and how they have put the competencies into action in their practice. We had quite several participants who have successfully completed the program. As successful graduates of the program, RNs are much more confident in functioning within their scopes and are poised in communicating better across various stakeholders, both in verbal and written mediums. They felt empowered with successfully completing the program, knowing that they were able to harness significant skills and have created valuable relationships with their Uniting mentors. Uniting continues to work with University of Wollongong for the new graduate program. We currently have participants lined up for our 2024 cohort, and we have just recently signed to have another one in 2025. Uniting is proud of having a culturally diverse healthcare workforce to help sustain better communication, better cultural understanding, and better representation for consumers and of those who are of CALD background under our care. We highly celebrate the value of what each culture brings to the profession of not just registered nurses, but also of our whole workforce, committed to seeing our employees grow and better support them in being able to do their best in every opportunity. So what have we learned? We learned that executive buy-in is fundamental from the bottom up to the top down. We learned that we need to foster true engagement and consultation with our culturally diverse workforce to create all-inclusive, safe spaces where they can thrive. And sometimes this may mean having those uncomfortable conversations about hard truths. And we've also learned that we need to give our CALD people a voice and truly hear their stories that goes to the heart of our leaders. So we can continue to shift people's mindsets through leveraging the power of our people as they share their stories of lived experiences, and by doing this, build their confidence and capabilities. I'd now like to end by sharing this wonderful video showing our CALD employees speaking in language on what belonging means to them. Thank you.
Yama, Diadana, Naya, Mirang, Nalia, Yan Mangun, Bujari, Muguru.
Ang iba-ibang kultura na inambag natin para sa Uniting ay napaka-importante at dapat niyong pahalagahan ng husto. Maraming salamat po.
Я сум горда на таа што сум. Од каде дојдов и се осеќам дека припаѓам.
Ben kendimi, özgün niteliklerimi ve değerlerimi benimsiyorum ve gerçek benliğimi diğer insanlara göstermekten korkmuyorum.
אנחנו לא צריכים להסתתר או להתבייש ממי שאנחנו.
我會教育我個下一代要好似我一樣，忠於自己，保持真我。
أنا بشتغل بمحل ما بيفرقوا بيناتنا من وين ما كنا من أي بلد.
Eu posso ser eu mesma e não preciso fingir ser outra pessoa para sentir que eu pertenço.
আমি অনুভব করি আমার ব্যক্তিসত্তার সব রকমের বৈশিষ্ট্য নিয়ে আমাকে সাদরে গ্রহণ করা হয়েছে।
मैं एक व्यक्ति के रूप में निडर और सम्मानित हूँ। मैं अपने कार्यस्थल पर अपनी सच्ची भावनाओं को साझा करने के लिए सुरक्षित और सहज महसूस करता हूँ।
सम्बन्धित हुनु भनेको हामी कठिन समयमा अरूको लागि त्यहाँ छौँ।
當大家無論我係咩膚色、種族或者宗教信仰都一樣咁接受我嘅時候，我會覺得特別親切。
نحن نتعلم من بعضنا البعض من خلال مشاركتنا لقيمنا الثقافية، وبذلك نرتقي بالثقافة والتفاهم لعائلتنا العالمية الموحدة.
Kod Uniting mi smo prevazišli toleranciju. Mi proslavljamo i cijenimo različite kulture. Mi unosimo sve svoje u sve što činimo.
Uniting-ல எங்கள் பண்பை பெருமையுடன் பார்க்க போதும் நன்றாக வேலை செய்வோம்.
Join us at Uniting in creating a place where everyone feels safe and confident to be themselves, and where diversity is valued to co-create a better world. At Uniting, everyone belongs.
Thank you very much and have a great afternoon.
It is quite difficult to capture the diversity of, obviously not only the culture, but also the experiences, of people. And even though, we did try, I guess, to do a qualitative study, I think this is, part of the limitation, I guess, we can't capture anything and everything. What we're trying to do, though, is actually I guess, supplement, some of the information that's already available in there, which mostly come from like a survey or from a data, data analysis, the numbers. So I totally agree with you that, it's it's not a straight sort of a thing to capture the experiences, but I think, we developed this 3 persona to, I guess, to capture, what are the common, I guess, experiences, of those 7 participants, that we recruited in the study. So that's what, I guess, to answer your questions, from the first study, and the qualitative, I guess, experience from the second one. And again, I'm just saying not everyone is happy to share their life experiences. So we are limited, as to what people are, I guess, willing to share with others.
Thanks very much, Irene, for that. I now have a question for Jeanne, and that's in relation to the mentoring program you developed together with the University of Wollongong. And you mentioned you have specific mentors for the workforce from culturally and linguistically diverse background. I just wanted to ask you, Jeanne, what motivated Uniting, I guess, to go on such a journey, and why you saw a need for that? And if we have time for the second part of the question, you also mentioned that you wanted to create safe spaces for culturally diverse voices. Just want to elaborate a little bit on that, why you felt that was important?
At Uniting, we're very proud to be very supportive of our employees, for the people we look after and the people we work with. So part of the new grad program objectives is to be able to harness the skills of those care staff who are transitioning into being registered nurses, who have worked with us as care service employees for a long period of time and have successfully gained a registration, and who have already successfully transitioned into becoming registered nurses. And part of that is being able to set them up properly in the workforce. And one way to do that is get them enrolled, get them to encourage them to enroll in the program and to be able to harness those skills that they've already learned at university by applying this into practice in partnership with University of Wollongong. And in creating safe, all-inclusive safe spaces, we do have a lot of celebration within the organization that encourages people to open up these conversations, encourages people to have celebrations within their services. We also do have a diversity and inclusion network, which I am very proud to be part of. And my colleague Margaret is with me as well, who's also our specialist. And we do have these formed groups of people who have the shared, who can share lived experiences and to have lunch outs, to have celebrations as well, wherein they can talk about their own experiences and bring their own learnings as well, so other people can learn from them.
We have another question from Georg in the chat, and that's for you, Irene. Irene, what are your takeaways for practice? What can providers do to support staff? What does it mean to support?
The takeaways message here is that, the providers do need to, I guess, maintain the education, training, and communication. So I think, that's quite a tangible, I guess, ways that, providers can continue to support the staff. And support means different things to people. I mentioned about, at the beginning about, obviously working in the aged care sector, a lot of, I guess there's a lot of negativity around it, it's a low value, low paid work. But, quite interestingly, having spoken to, a number of these study participants, they actually see this as a professional job. So they're very proud to wear their uniform. So you may not see that, I guess, like what you hear, I guess, in the media is a lot of the negative things. And this is what the participants, would like us to, share with the world that, this is not all negative. I think that, they see this as a profession. They see this as a way that they can provide for their family. They see this as a way that they can move forward, to contribute back not only to the community, but also for them to move forward, as the professional. And they see that probably in the same light as, we see a health professional. So support means different things to different people. But, I think at the very least, I think having, I guess, an ear to listen, the supervisor to support the career pathway, the training, the education, and the communication, not only amongst the staff or the management, but also with the clients, I think is a start.
You mentioned the positive side of things, and I think when we talked previously, you mentioned there were some providers, some regional communities who are better at, supporting the workforce when it comes to, resilience or well-being. Is there any sort of examples that struck you that thought, oh, that was a really good example that I want to highlight here that maybe you can share with us?
We picked Bendigo. The reason being, a few years ago, you've heard about, a lot of this racism, people being targeted and so on. However, there's a study done by a colleague of ours in Bendigo that shows that, despite the fact that, a lot of negativity, Bendigo, there seems to be a lot of positive coming, in this community. So we are actually quite intrigued to learn, why is that Bendigo is different. Hence, we targeted Bendigo because despite the fact that, it's a lot of people from the Muslim communities being targeted, because they're wearing hijab and so on. It seems to be, the community itself, seems to be quite resilient, and, we picked the aged care workforce, as one, I guess, target population, and we're trying to tease it out a bit more. So that's the reasoning, Nikki. It's not that scientific, but that was the reason.
We now go with the next question from Lynn to Jeanne. How would you suggest opening the conversation with called staff to ask them to share their story with their colleagues?
One thing I could suggest, and I've had this with one of the services that I used to work with within Uniting, we start with newsletters, with picking up staff members or volunteering staff members who are willing to share their stories. In the newsletters, we talk about what's happening within our services. We talk about the people that works with us. One example would be showcasing in your newsletter a group of people, knowing about them, their likes and dislikes, where they come from, what made them move to Australia, if there's anything of that kind of story pops up. But it's knowing about your people and starting small. Another thing would be within Uniting, we do have our monthly meeting with the managers. We do have a monthly meeting with the deputies, and we do have a regional meeting as well, where we inject these personal stories of the staff that we work with for us to know more and encourage that conversation. We need to start small in order to be able to achieve big things. And part of that is knowing who we're working with, knowing who we represent for, and being able to translate that and streamline that through to our everyday practices.
There's a question from Kai from Anglicare, Southern Queens, and she's asking, some organizations are just at the beginning of the diversity, inclusion, and belonging journey. And if maybe either of you or both, whoever thinks, would be able to respond to it, can share your best practice on how to capture data on staff, cultural background, and lived experiences.
We do have our diversity and inclusion strategy plan for the next 10 years. That was from 2022 to 2032. Part of that is a lot of projects. We do have toolbox talks. We do have partnerships with SBS for cultural community talks. We do have morning coffee celebrations, lunch celebrations, wherein we encourage these conversations. And part of that as well is there's representation from small pockets of people all across the organization. May you be from residential aged care or from home and community care, or you're working in IT in Parramatta, or you're at Pitt Street and head office. There's groups of people who come together to represent these small pockets, and that's where the real conversation begins.
I would thank both of you, for providing your answers and for presenting today.